Hello everyone. I had a really long conversation with my oldest brother actually this morning about mixed culture, and I realised that it's one of these things that you just don't get unless you are of mixed culture. And by mixed culture I mean either being born of two parents of different cultures, different races, different nationalities, somehow different identities, culturally, obviously. Or it could be that you are born of parents of the same culture, but you have moved to a different culture. So I think that many immigrants and expats can often have the same identity explorations or crises that children of mixed heritage can have as well. The concept of something to do with battling with two different identities, or combining two different identities, whether that's the one you're born in and then end up moving to, or whether it is two that you are born into. And I was thinking recently, like I see a lot of I see a number of posts of people who are trying to raise awareness of specific issues, complaining that other people only pay attention to those issues on these particular awareness days. And I was thinking about it, and I realised that if that is something to feel guilty about, I am guilty of it. So during months or days or weeks dedicated to specific topics, for example, racism, black culture, black history, LGBTQ issues, anything that isn't specifically an issue that personally affects me. On those awareness raising periods, my awareness is raised, and I will post more on those specific issues during those awareness periods, simply because I see more on those topics during those periods of time. And so I will share more because it is thought-provoking and it raises my awareness. It makes me understand, it helps me to understand issues that are not in my own personal sphere of experience. It raises my knowledge and my awareness of what those issues may be, how I may be contributing to any issues, and maybe things that I need to think about more, things I need to change within myself. My own personal issues that I focus on are to do with neurodiversity and mixed culture, primarily because of my own experiences, because of who I am. And I don't expect anyone to really have a full grasp of issues relating to these topics if they haven't personally been in contact with them themselves. I don't expect them to participate in sharing of information throughout the whole year, because these are not areas that they come in contact with every day. What I would expect people to do, having raised their awareness, having increased their understanding and knowledge of such topics, is to, do I expect this? What I would hope for is that these people would perhaps modify their own behaviours in light of greater understanding and knowledge, perhaps have more conversations throughout the year when appropriate. So, for example, my kids are mixed race. We often speak about the implications and consequences of being of different colours, different races, different cultures. We also talk about differences that are relevant to our own family specifically, but we do talk about issues more broadly. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from COVID and I have this tickly cough. And we will also talk about other issues when they arise. So, for example, we talk a lot about difference and never making someone feel less than because they are different. Never making an assumption that you are more than because you are different. And this doesn't take away from the fact that obviously people have different skills and abilities. There are things that people are better at and worse at, but that doesn't make us better as people or worse. It doesn't impact the value of who we are as individuals. We've got this fantastic series of books. I'll see if I can find them somewhere. They're brilliant. They're aimed at children from the age of around 6 or 7, maybe 8 or 9. But they're also interesting as adult level. And these are covering topics like homelessness, migration, diversity, racism. They are topics that bring pain when you understand the negative experiences that some people go through. But they're written in such a way that children can understand and not feel overwhelmed, overburdened. They include positive ways that you can make a difference. And so we buy books like this so that we can cover those difficult topics. And obviously there will be some topics in this world that we miss out on simply because it's not in our sphere. But we don't avoid these topics. And to me it's really important that when there is an awareness raising period that you take advantage of that. You read the posts that other people post. You share stuff that has helped you to learn, to understand. I'll rephrase that for myself. It's important to me that I take value from these awareness raising periods, that I share my learning, that I share any understanding that I have, that I challenge myself during these periods where my awareness is deliberately being raised by others. But I won't lose that learning throughout the year. It might be taken over by a different topic. It will most often be taken over by the topics that are most important to me, which, as I mentioned before, is issues relating to mixed culture, mixed religion, neurodiversity, simply because they are more relevant to me on a daily basis. They're things that are the forefront of my mind on a daily basis. But this thing about mixed culture really got me this morning, because it's a challenge. If you have been brought up by a family of one culture in one place, and you've not been exposed to people much of different cultures, you won't understand. You will find it harder to understand the pain and the conflict that occurs when you are living two cultures on a daily basis. It's almost surreal, the amount of questioning that goes on. You know, from a very, very early age, I had two parents they'd had very different political experiences. They'd been brought up totally differently in terms of religion. So my mother is a very devout Catholic, and my father claimed to be an atheist, although in reality I really believe that he was agnostic. And so our daily conversations and conflicts in the family growing up were to do with religion. They were to do with culture. My mum is from Croatia. My dad was British. But his Britishness was a mix of 1,000,001 different cultures. They claimed to have... There was some Jewish in the family far back, and so my granddad wouldn't mix meat and dairy. He wouldn't eat pork. There was some Spanish. There was some Russian in the British side. And the British side was composed of Welsh and possibly Irish and Scottish too, as well as English. And there was a big mix. And when there's a mix, there's conflict. It's like two different clouds coming together in opposite directions, and it clashes and causes thunder and lightning. And that's what happens in a family environment when you have a huge amount of cultural opposites, cultural differences. There will be clashes. And as a child, you learn very early on to compromise, to navigate those differences, to pull those opposites apart and basically make a decision about what you want to keep and what you want to reject. Because often it's impossible to keep both fully intact. You can't. You would be in constant conflict your whole life. And for some people this process is really difficult. It doesn't occur when they're small, and it begins to occur slowly throughout their lives. And really, even if it does happen when you're little, it happens throughout your life. I'm still challenging myself on all sorts of topics. You know, is this belief from my childhood accurate, or do I maybe need to incorporate some of the other side, or some totally new view? And so I was taught to question from a very young age, and it's quite tiring constantly questioning. And so sometimes I need to take a break from it, and I do. And there are many areas of my life that I have quite strong feelings about, particularly in terms of religion, that I rejected my religion when I was 16, the religion I was brought up with, but I didn't reject all the principles and the beliefs in terms of how to behave properly, how to treat others, the kindness, and I suppose the morals. I carried the morals in my heart, but the packaging it came in, I rejected. And it was many, many years before I realised that organised religion, full stop, didn't really work for me, but that I would like to pick and choose from many religions. And in some senses, that then left me a bit of an outsider, because I couldn't belong to any of those religious communities, that I couldn't belong to the one that I grew up in, that I actually quite enjoyed being part of. And so if that part of my identity was taken away, what takes its place? Who do I find as my tribe? Who do I find as my community? And this is the question that people of mixed culture will often ask. And I understand that there are other communities that will also ask that. Any type of subject, any issue where you are challenging your identity means that you're also challenging the community that you grew up in. And you will often be seeking your own community, your own tribe, trying to find that place of belonging where you can rest easy and know that you're not going to be judged, know that you're going to be accepted. And sometimes that can be really hard to find, especially if you're a very random mix of all sorts of things. It can take a long time to find a community where you feel you belong. So I've been kind of pondering, and this is quite fresh. I've had a recent revisitation with this subject this morning. And obviously, being of mixed culture myself, marrying someone of a different culture. My kids now are composed of 3 cultures and are beginning to pick up a 4th, the Swedish culture that we live in now. And so there are many storms brewing where all of these cultures meet. And all of us, I am sure, will end up coming out of it with a different blend of the cultures that we have grown up with, and that we are continuing to grow up in. I don't consider myself fully grown up. I think we continue to grow up throughout our lives. So I'd really love to hear anyone else's thoughts or opinions about anything I've spoken about today. I would find it very interesting. If there are any challenges, I welcome those too, because I am very happy. My brother challenged me a lot this morning in a very positive and very constructive way. He opened my eyes to different ways of thinking, to different challenges that arise out of mixed culture. And I am very grateful to him for that. It's been quite an emotionally tiring morning thinking about all of these topics. But it's important, it's worthwhile, it is necessary to continue. I believe it's necessary to continue to challenge myself on all of these topics, because then I can continue to grow as a person. My compassion will grow, my understanding will grow of everyone around me. And obviously in my work as a therapist, I will have a greater appreciation of clients that come to me with other differences. You have to continue to grow, otherwise what are we here for if we're not here to learn, to grow, to change? Anyway, I'm going to leave you to it because this is a very long little video. So message me any thoughts or anything that comes to you. I'd love to hear. I hope you all have a really good week, and it's great to be back focusing on my work again. I had a couple of weeks off with COVID knocked me over for quite a few days, and I'm still kind of recovering. I'm still quite tired with this tickly cough that you've heard a couple of times, but I'm feeling a lot better, so I'm very happy to be back and engaging with everyone. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye.